Hello YouTube, it's Mr. Magz here, and Pokemon for the Nintendo Switch is a game that a lot of Nintendo fans are really looking forward to. It's probably my most anticipated game coming out in the near future, exceeding that of even the most recent Smash Bros. Game. And I feel that's the case for a lot of people. So much so that there have been quite a number of leaks and rumors and whatnot in just the past couple of months. And just recently today, there was another big leak that was announced, and I'm not just gonna flat out say this leak is uncredible, but many aspects of it either seem too good to be true or so stupid they can't possibly be true. And I've never really seen a leak that has like both of those aspects at the same time. It's usually one or the other. This has both, which makes it even more confusing. So if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, let's go over exactly what this leak has to say. So, first off, something that hits very close to home to me personally is that this game is said to be a yellow remake of sorts for the Switch. And if you've been following my channel for a while, um, in my top 5 games I want to come out for the Switch, a yellow remake was close to the top of that list. If it wasn't, I don't remember exactly the number, but it was very close to the top of that list, if not the top. So hearing that this game will potentially be a yellow remake, I'm instantly intrigued by this because I've wanted that ever since before Sun and Moon came out. I feel Leaf Green Fire Red are amazing games. I love those games, but we haven't had anything more recent than third gen as far as solo Kanto journeys go. So hearing that the first Pokemon experience on the Switch will be a specifically a yellow remake, which I said I wanted over a red and blue remake just because it'd be a little bit different, wouldn't just be Leaf Green Fire Red again. That has me intrigued. Another thing that's kind of interesting is that I was expecting this for them to go the whole, two versions route, regardless of what the Pokemon adventure would be. But since it is like more or less a yellow remake, this rumor is saying that it'll essentially be Pokemon. The name of the game first is Pokemon Let's Go, and then Pikachu Edition and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee Edition, which is interesting because the main, I guess, gimmick of Yellow is that since it was based off of the anime, you couldn't evolve your Pikachu. He was stuck as a Pikachu throughout the entire adventure. If you even tried to use the Thunderstone on it, he would reject it and he wouldn't evolve. Assuming this rumor is true, in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee version, would you be able to evolve your Eevee? Would they keep that mechanic around? That would be very interesting if they did that, but considering how Eevee is arguably even more worthless than Pikachu is, I would really hope that not be the case. I'd be fine if they kept it with Pikachu being just Pikachu throughout the game, throughout the entire game, especially if they gave you a light ball kind of maybe halfway through to make him more so useful. But Eevee, maybe they could give Eevee an item similar to the light ball to just give Eevee enhanced stats or enhanced critical hit ratio or whatever, just something to make him a little more useful. That but if they are to have yellow version be split into two, having Eevee and Pikachu versions, I could easily see how they would do that. And something else that really excites me about this particular rumor is that you'll be completely new trainers. You and your rival will be new trainers. In my ideal scenario of a yellow remake, we'll say, it's not just yellow verbatim. You're essentially returning to the Kanto region after 20 plus years, and the region has evolved over those years. So I wouldn't necessarily want you to just play as a red again. I would want you to play as brand new characters. Maybe see old gym leaders and champions and Elite Four members in red and blue, which is also part of this rumor. Maybe see them throughout the journey and maybe have interactions with like a regrouped Team Rocket at some point, but not verbatim just the same 8 gym leaders, the same Elite Four scenario, just the same exact story. I would want something a little different. And if this rumor is true and you're a brand new trainer and your rival is brand new, I could easily see them doing something like that. And yeah, red and blue also have a role in the story. Maybe one of them is still the champion. Maybe similar to Heart Gold Soul Silver, you could have it where blue is still the 8th gym leader. I think that would be pretty cool. One thing I kind of feel, just going off the top of my head, it would be cool if, again, this is all assuming this rumor is true, which I'll go into a second why I don't necessarily think that to be true, but just this part right here. It would be interesting if they actually let the trainer go to the 8th gym first, because something that's always intrigued me about Generation 1, which is something I kind of wish they would do a little more often, is that you pass by the Giovanni's gym in the first town you get to. So you see your end goal right there. You can't go there yet because Giovanni's not there. So you have to go elsewhere first. It would be interesting if you get to Viridian City, and like Blue actually challenges you to a battle. Like he invites you to the gym and just stomps you. You don't lose any. You don't lose any money. You don't even black out. You lose. It goes right back into the story mode and just like, or maybe it's not even a story thing. Maybe it's an option where you could either go to the gym now or you could keep going, and there's nothing telegraphing you that, hey, this gym is the 8th gym. I think if they are going to remake Yellow, doing something kind of cool and creative like that would spice it up a little bit. Here's where we start to kind of go into the too good to be true category. According to this rumor, following Pokemon return. Now, this concept was feasible in Heart Gold Soul Silver because there were only 493 Pokemon. They still had sprites. You could have them the sprite to be pretty big, but they wouldn't be like, let's say you had a Steelix falling behind you, it could maybe be like twice your size and it wouldn't really matter. Same thing like a Groudon or a Quasar. How big the sprite is didn't really matter. They would just be sprites, so the size wouldn't really matter. Whereas now, when there's over 800 Pokemon and they're 3D models now, I'm not so sure how feasible it would be to have all 800 plus Pokemon follow behind you, be of relative size. Because now, if a Steelix or a Rayquaza or a Groudon tried to follow behind you, all the Pokemon is listed are over 20 feet tall. I'm pretty sure Groudon is like 20 feet tall. I'm just not sure how that would look, especially since you're going 3D now. That would surely cover up your player character, and it would probably cover up most of the screen now that I think about it, unless they only limit the following to only certain Pokemon, like ones kind of like how in Heart Gold Soul Silver, if you're in a cave or in a building, certain Pokemon above a certain size didn't actually follow you. Maybe that was just the case for all the time period. Like maybe let's say Steelix, he couldn't actually follow you because he's just too big, but something like a Torchic could. I could easily see that happening, but still, that wouldn't really be fair And also, there are still quite a number of Pokemon that are a lot bigger than your trainer that wouldn't necessarily be considered too big to not fit on the screen. So I'm just not, and I know it is on the Switch, so they have the horsepower to do it, but I I guess I would have to see it first, but just in my head, I just can't picture them coding all 800 plus models, making only certain ones usable and certain ones being left out. That just, I don't know, that would just kind of defeat the purpose for me personally, but we'll see. There were quite a number of walking animations for a lot of the Pokemon in Sun and Moon, so they were probably considering it for 7th gen, but they just found it not really feasible for the 3DS. But for the Switch, it could be possible. And something else that would definitely be cool, I'm not really sure if they would actually go this route, but honestly, I kind of hope they would with every game following, would be HMs will be replaced by the Poke Ride from 7th gen. And since it is a full on yellow remake, I wouldn't be surprised if they did add elements from other games, have Mega Evolutions, have Z moves, um, and even and not force you to have HMs would be very convenient. And an online has a hub for players. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't really love the Festival Plaza in Sun and Moon. I felt I can't remember what they called it, but the online integration in 6th gen I felt was actually a little better, considering it's right there on the bottom of the screen. You don't have to go somewhere else. If you want to battle someone, you just hit a button, you go online. You can still walk around the world, but people can still challenge you. You can still trade just right from the bottom screen. But since the Switch doesn't have a bottom screen, having some kind of hub would make sense. And here's where we transition from the too good to be true category to the too stupid to be true category. Pokemon Go integration. Now, considering how these games will be called, or potentially be called, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu slash Eevee version, Let's Go, it would make sense that games called that would have some kind of Pokemon Go integration. But I also kind of feel that them saying it have Pokemon Go integration all but confirms this game to be fake, because I personally would not name a game solely based on its integration with a separate mobile game. This leak calling this game Pokemon Let's Go, it feels a bit too on the nose for me. If they named it anything else and it also said there was Pokemon Go integration, I would probably believe that. But because the game itself is apparently called Pokemon Let's Go, it just sends up red flags for me. Now, they easily could do this, and if they do, I'll eat my words. But it just sounds, like I said, it just sounds a bit too dumb for it to really be real. And especially since Game Freak um, didn't really have any direct involvement in Pokemon Go. That was all Niantic and the Pokemon Company. If Game Freak had more control over Pokemon Go, then I could believe the Switch Pokemon game actually, having a more direct integration with Pokemon Go, even so far as going into the name. But for right now, I'm highly skeptical solely based on the name alone. If it was called Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu slash Eevee Edition, and they didn't have Pokemon Go integration, I'd be more inclined to believe this. Granted, it would still feel a bit too good to be true, especially for me personally, since I've always wanted a Yellow remake. I've always wanted um, a Yellow remake with new characters. I've always many people want follow Pokemon back. But as far as the name Let's Go and having Pokemon Go integration, that just seems a bit too on the nose for me. Going off that, I'm I wouldn't be surprised if the next Pokemon game has Pokemon Go integration of some kind. That wouldn't surprise me. What would super duper surprise me is the next the next bullet here is catching Pokemon works like in Pokemon Go. That would be a misstep. That would be a straight up mistake. Because the reason this doesn't make sense to me or really anyone is because the way the way catching Pokemon works in Pokemon Go is essentially how catching Pokemon works in the Safari Zone. You throw a Pokeball, and if it catches, it catches. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You don't have any Pokemon to help you catch it. You can't damage it any. You can't inflict any status moves or anything like that. It's you solely have the Pokeball, a rock you could throw at it, or a berry to try to lure it in. And very similar in Pokemon Go, where you have just the Pokeball, which you can do tricks and whatnot, and you have the different berries. So there's a chance, there is a chance that if this leak is real, there's a chance, I guess, that the leaker only saw the Safari Zone version or the Safari Zone area being played out, and they're like, "Hey, this right here looks very similar to Pokemon Go." And then said the entire game is based on Pokemon Go, which will be funny because Safari Zone came first. But more than likely, what this rumor is saying is that the entire game will be you flick a ball out, maybe do some tricks or whatever, maybe integration with the touchscreen. I can see that happening. And that's the only way you catch things, which would be weird because how then would you train up? How would you grind? How would you train up your Pokemon? How I feel that would just completely break the fundamentals of the game itself. There's no danger with Pokemon Go. In every single game, the very first patch of grass you go to, you can find a Pokemon and you can lose because your Pokemon and the enemy Pokemon are going to be on very similar levels. You're probably not going to lose, but there's still a chance they could get a critical hit or whatnot. So, so not having that challenge, that initial trainer to enemy encounter challenge in a Pokemon game, I feel it would ruin the experience for a lot of people. Not only is it a challenge, it's also your first accomplishment in this game theoretically. After assuming your rival isn't your first battle. If it is like in some games where actually the first Pokemon you fight is in the first patch of grass, if that would be your first challenge and you overcome it, that's just, the first step you need to take on your long journey. Just having it set up like Pokemon Go, like this is saying, and let's just say, since it is yellow, you first find a Rattata. Okay, the Rattata shows up. You you don't send out your Charmander. Instead, you just throw a Pokeball. And it won't catch because it's a Pokeball. Okay, you only have 5 chances at this. And that would also, now thinking about that, would also just completely ruin the economy of this game because in Pokemon Go, a lot of Pokemon are Pokeball sinks. Like you could throw 10, 20, 30 sometimes Ultra Balls at certain Pokemon that just won't catch. Granted, they could easily just lower the catch rate, but I feel that would take the fun out of it. Especially fighting legendary Pokemon. I talked about challenge earlier against a Rattata. What about Kyogre and Groudon in Generation 3? Those things were a chore to capture. They easily could just beat your entire team before you really have a chance to catch them. And having catching Pokemon work like Pokemon Go would lessen that experience of actually catching legendaries. So I really, really hope that this is not true. Most of the other stuff I've read so far, Online Hub, even Pokemon Go integration, HMs being replaced, even Pokemon following you, Yellow remake, all this other stuff, I'd be perfectly okay with. But changing up the fundamental game mechanics, I I don't like that at all. Especially since Nintendo specifically said this would be a mainline Pokemon game. Having it work more similarly to Pokemon Go, that that kind of dips into the more spin-offy era. Since or air yeah, era. Area. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Because Pokemon Go is clearly a spin-off. And many people, played that game for a month or two and then just kind of dropped it for Sun and Moon that holiday. So it would just be weird for Game Freak, who had no involvement pretty much at all in Pokemon Go, to drop the game mechanics that have worked for them for the better part of 20 years, actually 22 years at this point. Just drop that mechanic entirely and to instead make it work like the game that they didn't have any involvement in. That is the main issue I have with this leak in its entirety. And most people who played Pokemon Go but maybe got tired of it, they would see, they would see this new Pokemon game running on the Switch, but work like this game that they didn't like all that much and haven't played in a while. Maybe these people only played a couple of generations, like 10 or plus years ago. They play Pokemon Go. They're like, this is kind of fun, but it's not, it's not actually Pokemon. And they didn't feel like buying a 3DS. Maybe I'll see what's on the new HD system. Oh, it's just like Pokemon Go. I'll skip it. I could easily see that happening for a lot of people. And honestly, I'm not sure the huge Pokemon fan that I am, I would still buy it because I would still buy it just because I'm a masochist, I guess. But like, as far as me liking it, I'm not sure if I would actually like that I was buying it in the first place, let alone actually like the fact that they changed the fundamentals of this game. So, I don't know. That part is really the one main thing company with it just being called Pokemon Let's Go and having Pokemon Go integration. Just pretty much all the Pokemon Go integration stuff just really makes me feel that this rumor is not true. On top of the fact that, following Pokemon HN being replaced, a Yellow remake, just straight up, which is something, like I said, I've been wanting forever. For me personally, it feels both too good to be true and too stupid to be true. So I just don't believe this one personally. And the last thing is that it's apparently going to be announced soon, like later this month, which would be weird. Although I guess they did announce Pokken for Switch and Ultra Sun and Moon, at least announce it like a week before E3 last year. So it's not unprecedented for them to specifically have a Pokemon showcase shortly before E3. So I just really, really hope that if they do have a Pokemon Go style game coming for the Switch, it's on top of the new mainline Pokemon Switch game. And also, I wouldn't want a Yellow remake the thing I've been wanting for probably 5 years at this point. I wouldn't want that muddled in any way. I would just want a new, fresh experience in Kanto, new, fresh in the story, and maybe some mechanics here and there, but not a complete overhaul. If they do overhaul it, I want it to be more engaging, not less engaging like Pokemon Go was. I wouldn't necessarily mind some kind of real time strategy element. Like it, it would certainly break it on a competitive level, but as far as having a new way to play, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that if it looks like it could work well. So, am I still super excited for Pokemon? Definitely. I I I honestly hope they don't show anything before E3, especially so we are so close to E3. But if they do show something and it is this, I'm gonna be way less excited. So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you believe these rumors? Do you actually think? Because even Sarah B was reporting on this, and they hardly ever report on leaks or rumors. So they've heard about this before. So yeah, do you guys think this rumor is actually true? Would you be okay or would you be mad at a Pokemon Go integration this intense in this new Pokemon game? Just generally, what do you want for the new Pokemon game? Would you be okay with a Yellow remake or would you want straight up Gen 8 with brand new Pokemon? Leave thoughts and all down below. Like to have a discussion going, and I'll see ya.